This episode is entitled Into the Light, and it's so beautiful to be able to share this because what I really want to let you all know is how much we are loved. Love is what we are. We are held in that. We are safe in that. It's just that we have so many layers that kind of get in the way, and this journey is one of learning how to just keep letting go of those layers and just keep cracking open so we can experience what we truly are. So around 6 months after I'd been at Uluru with Isira, she was having another retreat at Govinda Valley in Sydney, and I was really excited to go, and my heart was aching to go, but there was also immense resistance. And it's like on this journey for me, and I suspect for others, there's a cracking open, and it's beautiful, and then the ego wants to pull you back in again. You go back out into the world, and fear starts to set in, and doubt, and the layers start to come back on, and we don't want to open and sit in that beautiful space. And although I did manage to maintain it between Uluru and Govinda, because I worked really hard at meditating every day and at just letting myself gently continue to open and stay there in that space. But even still, there was a sense of, yes, this is beautiful and I'm so looking forward to it, but immense resistance. I think my ego really knew that it was approaching annihilation, or at least entering more deeply into the light. And that's, the Course in Miracles describes this sense that all of us humans have, which is that we have a belief that we separated from God, which we never did, and that because of that we have a core guilt or a core sense of somehow we're going to be punished or not enough or not okay. And I really felt that. It's like I was entering, there was great vulnerability in it, like I was diving into something where possibly I could get punished, even though I know it is unconditionally loving. So in the weeks approaching that retreat, there was a lot of neck tension and not sleeping brilliantly at night, and a kind of a shakiness in the body. But we went to Sydney, my husband and I, and it was beautiful to see Isira again, of course. And probably for the first 24 hours, even though I could feel her from the beginning of the retreat, I could feel Isira as light. She sits just as light as Isira is awareness having to work at being in the body. The rest of us are in a body having to work at being in awareness. And that's how I feel her, just that beautiful unconditional light floating in light, which is really what we all are. And I could sense that at the beginning of the retreat, but I wasn't yet ready or willing to start to open up to that. But just through sitting with her and being in that beautiful space in nature, I could feel it coming, and my body was equally resisting. And because there was a lot of that fear that I described, that somehow I wouldn't be okay, or I wouldn't measure up, and I actually started to have all these very negative thoughts towards Isira. And of course I was a little concerned about that, and I put my hand up and I said to Isira, I'm really having some pretty negative thoughts towards you. And she said, that's okay, that's normal. And she talked about the Buddha's murderous thoughts, and that apparently before he became enlightened, he experienced murderous thoughts, which reassured me somewhat. So anyway, through the next few days, or it probably only took the first day, and by the second day, I remember sitting in a meditation with Osira, and I could feel this brightest light. I could feel her as that, just this shining light, and it felt quite overwhelming for me, but also beautiful. And I'm even shaking just describing it now, that this truth of what we are. It's so beautiful. But anyway, I was starting to have really negative thoughts as well as being aware of the light. So it's like two things going on. I was aware of this shining light, and then my head was having really negative thoughts, like even murderous thoughts. I was having murderous thoughts like Syra, and she's so beautiful. I was having really jealous thoughts, like I could destroy her beauty, or wasn't pretty. It was like when the ego was facing what it thought was its annihilation, these very negative thoughts started to come, and so I just had to witness them. I knew not to get drawn in, and so I just let them be. It's a part of shifting the fear of not just my fear, but the fear of this universe, really, So I just observed. I felt that light. And one thing I really noticed was that the light, despite the thoughts that were going through my head, it didn't dim. In fact, if anything, it shone even more brightly, even more gently. And I was able to just sit and slowly enter into that beautiful space. Sorry, it's just hard to describe, but it's very powerful. And it kind of remained a little bit like this for a few days. Like I was just, my whole body was shaking and intermittently wanting to withdraw, but ever more deeply being able to just sit in that beautiful space of light that we are. Oh. I've actually just been online with Osira this morning. She had a workshop this morning. Is probably why I'm feeling it so much. But really, I know now, I experience now, that space is just love. We have never separated from that. We are never going to be judged by that, because we've always been that. So this love, this safety, this perfect light. And Osira just sits there all the time. And it does get to, I feel her as just resting. Course in Miracles would say resting in God, and that's where she is. And it's such a beautiful space to be able to sit just in that space of light, knowing that everything that is happening around us is really a dream. Yes, it's our experience, and we need to learn to work with it with love and acceptance, but really what we are is this space of light. So the retreat was 5 days, and I just ever more deeply was able to rest in that space of love. And I felt my whole vibration change. You know, there's such a difference when we're caught totally in our head and in the ways of the world. And then as we start to shift into this beautiful essence of life that we are, we lighten, everything lightens. And the whole vibration starts to shift. Being with Isira literally is like, it's like plugging myself into God. And the thing is, in that space of awareness that really we all are, it's all one. So I know Isira is always with me, as is Jesus. In fact, we are all one together. Oh, I didn't expect this to be quite like this. But I guess you might as well hear the rawness of what it's like. You know, this journey does involve a real willingness to be vulnerable, to be whatever it is that we are. Because this is us, you know, this we are. We might as well crack open. And as we do crack open, that creates the space for the love to come flooding in and flooding through. But we have to be prepared to keep going there, you know. The ego will want to resist. And I remember on that retreat, I like to exercise and I like to go for walks, and there's such beautiful bush around that place, Govinda Valley. But I remember going this day on a walk and hearing Isira, she communicates telepathically, saying, you know, slow down, allow time to be present. I was trying to perhaps escape a little. And so I just went for a small walk and sat more still in the bush and felt the trees as the light and the earth as the light that she really is. And then came back to my room and sat on my bed, and I remember just sitting with my whole body shaking, just experiencing that light. I feel so blessed to be starting to know what I truly am and to have had Isira as a teacher. And you know, one thing I really knew was that as I was shifting into this space of greater awareness, I knew that it wasn't just me. I knew that I was shifting or helping to shift the fear of the world. It's like the more of us that can shift from fear towards love, just little bit by little bit, in whatever way we can, that shifts the entire, how would I describe it? Presence of this planet, of this universe. Yeah, And as I was leaving that retreat, there was I remember walking out with my husband. I had my backpack on, and as I was leaving Govinda Valley, a beautiful monarch butterfly flew up to me, and it flew all around me. And I knew it was gratitude from, I don't know, the universe. Or perhaps I don't know. Just that I'd been prepared to sit there and face that space. Oh. So then, every time I go on a retreat with Isira, as I said, it's like plugging myself into God. And for the first 6 weeks after returning, I was, it was just easy to enter the light, and I felt myself buzzing, really. But gradually the world seeps back in, and my ego seeps back in. And it was really hard. I really had to work at. I meditate for an hour in the mornings, and then usually a half an hour in the middle of the day, and again before bed. And sometimes I really had to work at going to meditate. And it's like that core sense of whatever it is in us humans, guilt, or that we're not enough, that we're going to be judged. It says in the Course in Miracles, that beautiful saying that we are more afraid of our light than our darkness, and it's so true. So every time I was going to meditate, there'd be this resistance coming up, and at the same time this ache to sit in that love again. And I again got caught in sort of self-judgment or annoyance that it wasn't happening more quickly, or that the resistance would come back and the ego would come back. And the aunties were there again to help me and support me, and Isira as well. And I remember I was going for a walk in the bush with my husband and I was in a very resistant state, and a little bit annoyed with myself that I was in that state. And I heard the aunties call me something. I think it's hairy bums resistance again or something. And I just started laughing, and I felt Isira's presence. And she said, just put your head against a tree. And so I did. I just went and rested my head against a tree, and I felt the gentility of nature, of life. And the message was just gently, just accept this resistance. Let yourself move gently forward. It's okay. It's always okay to be having that fear, that resistance, that whatever it is that we're doing, just keep coming back to presence and let yourself go gently. And at the time that I was noticing that, then some birds came and sat in the trees nearby, and I felt that to be Isira and the aunties with me. Another funny thing I'll just mention is that every time I was going into meditation after that period, there would be some fear of entering the light. It was a bit like I was going to be seen, that all my mistakes and my failures and my lists of everything I did wrong was going to be seen. And I remember going into this meditation and being aware of the aunties with me, and they were carrying the list of all my mistakes, and they were wearing a little disguise, those Groucho masks with the glasses and nose, and they had roller skates on, and they said, we've got all your mistakes, and we're disguised, and don't worry if it gets too hot, we're going to get out of there fast. And I just laughed, and it's just like everything that I could feel, my resistance, my fear, it was seen and held with unconditional love, that it was okay to be that, and that I was supported along the way. So I just really want to let you all know how supported you are and held and safe, and that it's so worth continuing to just step towards vulnerability, to work on all those layers of conditioning that we have, gently, step by step. Because what slowly starts to happen is that love is revealed and we know ourselves to be that beautiful essence of love that we are. And I know this recording may have been a little wobbly, but that's what happens when we're exposed to that. It's just so moving.